Hey, what's up guys, this is Oakley and we'll be doing a 1 versus 1 battle again with the Prussian Prince. I am going to be the Saxons. We're going to be doing an unfortified port assault. And so we're going to be moving here in the dead of winter. I have a couple ships, 2 over here, and another pair attacking from the other side, emerging from the fog, coming in onto the city. And you can see the army builds in front of you here. I definitely have more units at my disposal, but that is nonetheless not going to dissuade Prussian Prince from sallying forth against me. Let's go ahead and put this on slow motion just so we can discuss things a little bit, because the action will be soon ramping up. But yeah, Prussian Prince is definitely very ballsy with his attacks. We had another battle where I was the Eastern Roman Empire, attacking in multiple columns all around his city, and he was the Alans, and he really just sallied forth against me. And so again, he's doing the same. I was a little bit more prepared for this. And that's why you can see my Saxons already starting to position themselves in a more tight-knit formation. So let's first, take a look at this city itself. This is an unfortified settlement with coastal assault that I can get in on with some ships here, so undefended. But let's talk first about the graphics. That's the easiest thing to discuss about the game. And first and foremost, I have to say that my impressions of Total War Attila are that the graphics are definitely an improvement. They've definitely stepped up their game when it comes to prettying up the coastline here, adding a lot of detail. Some of the coastlines like this look beautiful, marvelous, much better than the jagged coastlines of Rome 2. The city itself has much more details, the buildings look better, textures, everything looks great. But that is kind of due to the fact that I'm just playing on a city like this. I have seen other battlefields that still have the jagged coastlines. You still kind of have the graphical issues with the shoreline, where, yep, you can see right here, where it's kind of the weird texture clipping in and out. The shores will also kind of jump a little bit at the corners. But overall, I mean, they have stepped up their game, I have to say. I mean, here's the shore with some of the issues, but it's looking better. And I will say that I'm not just sucking up the CIA. They definitely still have some issues graphically with the game, but it's definitely an improvement. As for the gameplay, I can't really judge too much of the gameplay. I've only played several games, so hopefully just being able to see these games secondhand will give you an impression of what the game plays out like. Unit variety is pretty good. We don't have as many factions as Rome 2, but hopefully that will increase. Obviously the Danes, Jutes, and Geats that you can get will improve that, and I definitely expect them to come out with more, probably like the Picts and the Caledonians, more factions like that in the future. Another thing that I want to note about the detail in the campaign or battlefield map is it's way more immersive than it was before. The level of detail that they have into the cities now, I mean, you have these little walls, you go into the countryside, there's little rocks, hedges. It really feels way more alive. The countryside looks super believable compared to what it was in Rome 2. And Rome 2 was already looking pretty good, but I mean, here strewn all over the place, you have these fields, you have little areas, little carts broken down, things that you can't really have troops formed up on, and I really appreciate that. I'm one who just loves to get immersed into the world of Total War, and I think they're starting to get there. This is super detailed, but again, I don't want to give the misimpression that this game is flawless. It's definitely better compared to Rome 2, but there are still a lot of small graphical things. Now back to the game itself. I am basically uncontested as I move into the rear here. I'm going to be positioning my boats for docking on various fronts. You can go ahead and watch some of my guys actually make their way out. This is a huge ship that can have a lot of men, so we're going to be pouring out of these positions and starting to seize the ground here, uncontested as I said, and then move our way up, take the city center here, and also go ahead and take the hut over here. Now we're going to be moving up into position. And now the main engagement is going to start happening over on this one. We'll hit play relatively soon. I just want to give you an overview and my thoughts. He's going to come crashing to the center. You can see I've pulled in my Nordic Spearmasters around the flanks, and I'm going to try and guard against the cavalry action that's going to be developing on the sides. And in the meantime, I'm going to having my guys here. I do like these awesome throwing axes that you can see in. Here comes Prussian Prince with a nice charge, but my guys are relatively ready. And look at this, more of these axes actually coming in, hitting a bunch of our men. So let's go ahead and enough talk. Let's actually put this on play so we can enjoy this. But here he comes. Up and down the line, I've kept reserve forces just to be able to throw all of their, I don't know what you call these. They're not tomahawks, but you get the point. But yeah, I want to get all of my range projectiles out at the opponents, and that's a really funny sight, actually, seeing all these axes on the ground. Now, I do have my front lines, and these guys are getting chewed apart, but that's fine. These are very light troops, so I'm willing to have them soak up that assault. Prussian Prince is going to have a lot of decisive strikes on some of my high tier infantry, softening them up before he moves in with the rest of his guys, who are now going to be tossing more of these war axes into the mix. Then I'm going to form up, face the storm, and chase up against these noble Suevi swordsmen. So the Vandals have pretty decent troops. However, they're more sort of geared towards naval combat, which I was anticipating him to bring some ships to ward off my Saxon assault. But they also have a pretty good mix of heavy cav and swordsmen, that's for sure. So here he comes going after my general from the back. I was able to pop shield wall and take off fire at will, so at the last minute they were able to brace a little bit better than I thought they would, but they still got hit from the back. So he's going to continue to maraud in my lines. So a very aggressive assault. Prussian Prince is known for these, and he's definitely been pulling the strategy off on me a lot of the times. So he's being pretty effective. His general is circling in the background, but you can start to see some of his troops are going to actually be pulled out from this fight just because he's not getting the knockout blow he was expecting against my columns. I was able to coalesce them enough to be able to pull in, and even some of my spearmen are now going to be trapping his horsemen. So he's realizing he can't have a quick knockout blow, and so the troops are now going to start to retreat and pull back into the city center. You can see the city center itself starting to be captured, and actually it's going to start to be burnt by some of my guys who have made their way up into these positions. More of my men are going to be retreating, pulling back. I have a lot of these marauders now up in the heights, and I'm going to try and secure this the city center. While in the meantime, you can see in the distance the battle is still definitely raging on. Some troops breaking, but my own forces, the Saxons have some huge, heavily armored guys, and that's why they're able to tank this fight for so long, especially with the upgrades I was able to give them. Chosen warriors, I mean, they're down to 28, 26, 27 men. They're not going to rout for a while. I mean, maybe with this cavalry strike in the back, but they're definitely killing a lot of the Vandals who are themselves outnumbered. But both sides are just fueling, they're putting up a huge fight. But like I was saying, I'm now going to secure the city center, and some of my guys are going to be on intercept duty against any cavalry forces who are going to try and press the advantage, try and cut through, and they're going to be pretty ruthless. They're just going to try and charge through my blockade, and so I'm not quite going to be able to block all of them. Some of them are going to start breaking my force here, so he was actually to penetrate through, break my Nordic band, but now he's caught on these Nordic warriors. Some more cavalry charge up through the top before I could get into formation. They're going to start to disengage, but not before I'm going to get some pretty brutal shots onto these guys. So there goes a volley of javelins. So he's paying for having his cavalry exhausted, running up here. They're going to see their town, their settlement burning in front of their eyes. And so I guess if we're going to start to give a little bit of narration to this fight, these guys are starting to get weary, and they're going to have to send some messengers back to the main force, tell them to hurry back to the fight. But they're not going to be able to hurry back because my guys are still attacking these guys full force, and they're holding their own. I have some spare spearmen that I can put in the back to protect against these types of attacks in the rear. And so my forces, these chosen warriors, are still holding strong. They're going to break the Germanic levy up and down the line. It looks like I am sort of going to be winning. Some of these guys have come back from routing, so they're going to have to join the fight and try and protect my infantry who are now in the mix. But again, continuing strikes from enemy cavalry is going to be absolutely devastating. Now it's going to be coming in against my general. You can even see my general has some, I can't remember what you call this type of helmet. Some part of me wants to say it was from like Sutton Hoo burial helmets. I can't remember, but I think mostly these are just ornamental and wouldn't necessarily be helmets of that you would see on all sorts of troops, but it definitely looks appropriate on a general of his caliber. These are going to be some chieftain with Gaedericht. I'm not quite sure what that is. I'm not super familiar on Nordic armor or armament, but I do know that what I'm looking at is very badass. So we're going to be grinding ourselves down to the nub out here. I'm just going to start breaking some of his troops. The cavalry are shaken and exhausted, and so I may actually be able to start to turn this fight. My general is in the mix. More of my men have now rallied, and so we're going to be able to hold the plaza, finishing off the rest of these cavalry who are desperately throwing at themselves at my men, trying to buy time, but some of them are going to make off towards the shoreline, perhaps grab a rowboat and make a getaway, believing that the city has now fallen. But now more men are going to be streaming in, kind of haphazardly. But I do have a lot more guys streaming up to the top. And now I even have some of these pikemen moving into position, so these will be pretty good for holding off the enemy force as they try and move in. And some of my archers have even survived the fight. Now I want to take the time to mention a couple little quirks that happen in this game. First and foremost is going to be me capturing the city settlement. I figured that doing so would start a countdown of some sorts, and basically, you know, just like in Rome 2, you seize all the capture points, and then you have like what, 2 minutes or something until the battle is over. That didn't quite happen. I mean, it's held by the Saxons, it says here, but it didn't really end me the battle. So I don't know if that's a new feature, or perhaps the fact that that's kind of how these battles go. Because if I gloss over this, it does say that the faction controlling the capture point gets a battlefield-wide morale bonus, but it doesn't say anything about capturing this to win. So perhaps they've changed the dynamics of how these types of battles play out. But meanwhile, I didn't know that. My whole plan was to seize this from the back, play a delaying action from the front, and just, you know, sneak in here, ninja, and take over the city and win. But it looks like I'm actually going to face the force on the outside, which is actually not going to be very good for me. You can see this little icon here already telling me that my general has died. These guys, meanwhile, are going to be kind of outnumbered. There's a Swaby force that outnumbers me. So I'm going to try and pull back, make the retreat into the city, which is ironically my only defense. But the closer I get, the more these towers are going to do damage to me. I figured that I would take too many casualties in the approach, so I'm going to have my general's unit turn about and try and hold firm on the outside. And I'm going to have to send some units to the relief of that force. But the problem is, I'm stuck, you know, separated on either side. I can't relieve this force. They can't relieve the force in the city center, because I'm stuck between this tower that can do a lot of damage to my men. The problem inherent in that is if I let these guys on the outside die, the balance of power will swing against me. And even though I have the city center and I've gotten a lot of kills, my guys are shaken, the general is dead, and they're all very close. They're wavering. One little strike to these guys could essentially break them. So even though I think I have the city center and I think I might win this, I mean, there's no knowing. I could break at a moment's notice. If this unit routes, maybe it'll chain route and destroy the rest of my guys. I mean, I have some pretty low tier forces up here. They are not going to hold out for long, and they're all very, very shaken. Meanwhile, Prussian Prince is now going to be moving in on my small Saxon band, and this kind of reminds me of the History Channel's series Vikings. I've only seen a couple of those episodes. It's pretty cool, historical-ish videos. The historical authenticity is kind of mixed, but it's better than most documentaries, actually, and they do the battle some service. So these cavalry are definitely proving their worth. And heavy cav is something you're going to be seeing a lot of in Total War Attila, that's for sure. They have just devastating attack, and especially, I mean, you saw this in Rome 2 in the late game. They have a lot of kills, and I'm not quite sure why we're getting a little stuttering in these cavalry. It said the replay was corrupted, so that may be an issue. There was an update to Attila since this battle was played, so maybe that's what's going on. Speaking of graphics, let's go ahead and mention that the graphics that we're seeing here are beautiful, but I'm not quite sure everyone will be able to play them. I've heard that some people are having issues running Attila. I myself, when I got Rome 2, it was totally not optimized at all. I couldn't play the game. I kind of rage quit out of that. I made that Hitler Reacts to Total War Rome 2, kind of express my opinions in that. And I had to buy a whole new graphics card, a GTX 770, an i9 Intel Core processor, just to be able to run Rome 2. So I have a pretty big beast of a computer. And if you can play Rome 2 very, very well, then you can play Attila very, very well. That's what I've learned. So hopefully it's been optimized, but I cannot guarantee that everyone will be able to, you know, at the launch of this game, be able to play it with the utmost graphics, which is unfortunate because it's very beautiful, but we'll have to see sort of how that pans out. Anyways, my men fought to the last, but it wasn't enough to kill these Swaby forces. And now these guys, you can see one of them wiped his brow, and now they're going to get to the busy work of returning to the city center and trying to finish off the rest of the men who are basically rifling through the imperial coffers at the top. My men are at the top, basically grabbing all the coins from the horde chest that they can. They're scavenging up necklaces, they're annoying the populace, they're basically burning, pillaging, and so this force has to come back and uproot my men. It'd be kind of cool if that was actually a feature. Obviously, I'm lying when I say that. I'm just adding a little bit more detail to this. My men are just standing up here. But it'd be kind of cool if you're up in the city center, and just like how they said unruly troops will go ahead and start burning buildings, what if they went ahead and kind of ran into buildings and started, you know, went MIA in the middle of a siege and started ransacking and, you know, coming out with gold coins and then just running off the battlefield? That'd be kind of funny. But yeah, here are my men at the top. Let's go ahead and fast forward this. So, like I said, I was expecting the capture point to grant me victory. It doesn't look like it's going to. So, what I decided to do is I'm going to pull some guys down to the tower, which is, in retrospect, maybe not the best move, but what I was thinking was, I don't know what I was thinking, actually. I was like, oh, well, let's go ahead and send my cheapest, weakest unit. Let's go see if we can't burn down this tower. I guess I was hoping that burning the tower might maybe give me control of the settlement or something. But what happens is I'm throwing these torches, and yes, torches make a comeback, but it seems like the buildings hold out longer. Is I'm losing a lot of men, and I'm actually going to break before I can take out this tower. So I wasted a very, very key unit. You know, these guys have pikes, and what I should have done is kept them up at the center point up here. Had they been up here, they could have blocked this unit from moving up, and I would have had a pretty easy way of keeping these guys back. So I wasted one unit, which will again wreak havoc on my morale. Let's go ahead and Alt K on this. Oh, Alt K. If you guys didn't know, you press Alt K and it goes in cinematic. So if you can handle the good graphics of Attila, be sure to spam this as much as possible. I mean, don't tell me this doesn't look like some sort of cutscene. This is great. So now you can see two warriors facing off against each other on a ransacked, pillaged, snowy, burnt-out city center. The wolf skin on my men. We're going to be forming up in our lines, getting ready for the final push, the final assault, with the stakes basically being who holds this territory and this land. And it looks like my guys have lost too much in this raid. We're not going to go empty-handed. We're going to kill the enemy to the last man. Meanwhile, these guys have seen their settlement razed, their fellow comrades killed, and they're going to be fighting essentially with the last man. So here they go. They're going to countercharge my troops. And let's watch a little bit of the combat, see how the animations panned out. I was able to see some axe animations. Most of the animations seem to be recycled in Rome 2. I will admit I haven't looked too closely, so I don't exactly know how many they've added. But like I said, I think I remember seeing axe animations somewhere, so that's kind of a godsend, something they'd promised, or we were hoping they would do in Rome 2, but never got around to. But obviously with Saxon warriors and the prevalence of axes in this time period, I'm glad to see that happen. Now I'm trying to find one so I can point it out to you. I'm not quite seeing it. And hopefully once the blood pack comes out, these types of engagements will look even more ferocious. But I was starting to get worried. He broke one of my forces, so they're going to be pulling out of that fight. My other one is going to start to waver. Not boding well for me at all. My guys are tired. And so it looks like, I mean, his morale is kind of, I mean, they're shaken, but it looks like it's not flashing as much as mine. So this is not going well for my men. I have 56, he has 46. So it's kind of up in the air. But that's why I brought some forces around the back, and they're now going to be streaming into position to catch Prussian Prince from the rear. And these are the guys with the lowest morale. I was hoping they weren't going to break. So here they come. They're going to get countercharged, so this is going to be the deciding moment if they break or not. But it looks like they're going to stick to it. And now, charge from both sides. Finally, oh, you see it? We had an axe animation. But yeah, that's going to be it for Prussian Prince's forces. And that's the end of the battle. Hope you guys enjoyed. Some new mechanics that I'm not sure are meant to be, like capturing the city settlement won't necessarily grant you victory, or if that's a glitch, I don't know. But anyways, I will see you guys in the next battle. Thank you so much. Let's go ahead and look at some of the stats. And I hope you guys enjoyed. Good game to Agony Prussian Prince. Make sure to check out his channel. He's also a YouTuber. And I will see you guys in the next one. Peace out.